Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Facing the Pain. I'm Jeremy Lambert, and with me, as always, my broadcast partner, Samer Kadi. Samer, tonight we discuss the return of UFC to Friday pay-per-view.
But that's just the intro?
That's the intro now. That's by Mike Goldberg. I'm going to do it every single week.
You've got the tone and the pauses in between words on point. I was expecting a longer intro, but sure.
No. I don't need to do the whole big spiel every week. Like, that's annoying. I just want to do the hi again, everybody.
I'm actually just glad you admitted it was annoying. I'm sure you meant it's annoying to prepare for you, but what the rest of us are thinking is it's annoying to hear. So
yeah,
anyway,
I don't disagree.
As I said, annoying to hear. We're discussing the what now?
The return of UFC to Friday night pay-per-view. This card is on Friday, if you didn't know.
I did hear something about that by complete accident last week. Somebody made a comparison between this and the Brock Overeem fight, in that it was a return of a huge pay-per-view draw off of a really devastating loss with, according to them, minimal promotion. I don't know if it's really minimal promotion.
They're not even doing media this week. You've heard about this, right?
She's not doing media.
Though. No, well, neither
Ronda.
is. Yeah, but neither is Amanda Nunes. Like, they pulled both of them from all media. Like, so they're basically not having their main event fighters promote this fight.
Do they, not want this pay-per-view to draw? Like, what's the deal?
I think they're just... The comparison to the Brock Lesnar, I saw those same tweets, and it might have been you who retweeted them, but...
No, I didn't. I don't retweet MMA tweets unless it's something, absolutely spot on. I did not retweet that.
Okay, well, I did see those tweets as well. And it's a pretty fair comparison, I guess mainly because it is this Friday pay-per-view. So they're doing it on Friday because Saturday would be December 31st, New Year's Eve. Like, no one's watching a UFC fight on New Year's Eve because it would go into...
That would have been great.
It would go into January 1st. So... They just do it on a Friday night instead, and they put, however many years ago, it was Brock Lesnar. This year it's Ronda Rousey. Like, they're putting this big return on there, and they're kind of banking on, even though it's a Friday night pay-per-view, we have this superstar draw, so you're still going to watch. And it didn't really work out that way with Lesnar. I remember that buy rate being really disappointing, given that it was Brock's return. And I don't know how well this one's going to do. Like, Rousey's return should be a big deal, but because it is a Friday night and because they're not doing... I don't think these pre-fight press conferences and shit, add much to the buy rate, unless crazy shit happens and it's Conor McGregor, but Conor's not on this, so Rousey would just give a bunch of cliched answers. Maybe Nunes would try to stir her up a little bit, but you either want to see this fight or you don't, and your mind is kind of made up. Like, no press conference is going to change your mind. But it's still, I think the precedent it kind of sets with pulling them from the pre-fight or the pre-week media week isn't maybe the best thing in the world.
Well, the previous precedent is kind of the opposite. Fighters that refuse to do media have been pulled from pay-per-views. So I found this to be pretty weird, actually. I still find this insanely... Like, honestly, Conor McGregor being pulled from UFC 200 is still one of the most arbitrarily insane things I've ever seen. At least seen the UFC do, and that says a lot. But just seeing this complete 180 on a very, very similar matter... just a few months later is pretty hilarious. Okay, it's like 6 months later, but that's still not that long of a time.
No, it's not long at all. And yeah, they just, it wasn't even a McGregor situation. McGregor didn't want to do it because training camp. And I think his reasoning was a lot more concrete. Like, I don't think he ever said he wouldn't do the fight week media stuff.
Yeah, he never said that. It's just like all the traveling and stuff.
Yeah, he just didn't want to show up to this big press conference. Like, he could have done it via teleconference is what he said. And they were like, no, you have to be there in person. And yeah, he was coming off the loss and he didn't want to interrupt his training camp and everything. It really feels like they're just protecting Rousey's what's left of her ego and her mental state right now.
Yeah, I think actually that's... I'll be honest. I've never really been a fan of Ronda Rousey.
Why is that?
Big hot take. Well, she once told me to get a hobby.
That's right. That's why you can't stand her, because she dissed you on Twitter.
That's right, and I took it very, very personally, and I'm still not over it. I think I've said before that I've been on a quest to find a hobby since, but hasn't been working out. Most recently, I've tried chess, of all things. I don't know where I'll go next. I'm thinking pools,
How can you go down from chess?
What's that?
I said, how can you go down from chess?
I guess you gotta ask Ronda.
Are you just gonna watch a bunch of John Fitch fights?
No, I would not do that. Not at this point.
I tried to think of something more boring than chess, and for some reason, John Fitch came to mind. I should have said Sean Shirk.
Chess is awesome. Don't hate, but that is not the point. The point is, throughout my everlasting quest to find a hobby, the only part that's ever interested me about Ronda, and not interested me in like a being fascinated kind of way, it's just, I just find it almost funny, is her her psychological state. I wanted to say psychology and psychological state and ended up mixing both. It's like, because she is this clearly, and I'm not playing armchair psychiatrist here, but she's this clearly insecure person in general, surrounded by a bunch of yes men, and surrounded by what really is like undeniably the worst coach in MMA.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's right. He's like a child in front of you. This motherfucker's got nothing on you.
Tell him he's hurt. Tell him he's hurt.
Tell him he's hurt is my favorite thing. When he lost it, oh my god. I guess we could like talk about that in a while. I don't want to like interrupt my train of thought here, but tell him he's hurt is my favorite thing in the world. It's honestly the greatest piece of cornering I've ever heard. What's his actual name? I forgot the dude's name.
Edmund Tavadarian.
Yeah, Edmund something Armenian sounding. Sure, yeah. So, and she's clearly, if you listen to any of her interviews, in good times and bad, whether it's just fight hype or anything else, from her thinking she can armbar Cain Velasquez, which at this point is 50-50, it is to her self-doubt after she lost to Holly Holm. Did you ever read that ESPN piece on her after she lost that fight?
Possibly. I mean, this was a year ago, so it's been a while.
It's unfortunate that I only thought of this now. I should have at least researched the woman's name who wrote the piece, because save for some iffy, uninformed parts, like the typical casual observer parts that you'd expect out of a mainstream media piece about MMA or an MMA fighter, it was a really great feature about Ronda Rousey. And it really highlighted the state of a broken individual struggling to come to her terms after a loss. That in and of itself, I don't think is super uncommon or anything. But from her breakdown, just because she had a stare down Amanda Nunes prior to what fight was that?
It wasn't a part of the last fight at 206, or was it 205?
Yeah, when they randomly brought them on stage.
Yeah.
And Ronda was apparently, but by all accounts, according to not confirmed reports, but reliable reports, she was so upset afterwards that she needed people to console her, even though it was literally just a stare down. Nothing happened. It was a typical intense stare down. She's kind of a mess, honestly.
And that whole, they talked to Amanda Nunes and they didn't talk to Ronda because she left the stage, and depending on who you believe, they weren't supposed to talk to.
She wasn't supposed to be on the stage, right?
Yeah. So that whole thing was kind of.
But the very fact that this turned into something dramatic says a lot. You know what I mean? Take any other two individuals or any other keep Amanda Nunes and bring any other individual. Any individual in the sport you can think of, even if they weren't supposed to be on stage or whatever, this would be a non-issue. You know what I mean? It would be a stare down. Okay, they talk to Amanda Nunes, they don't talk to the other girl, because, I mean, she just left the stage, and it would end at that. You know what I mean? There wouldn't be reports of her being upset, and, she's clearly still not comfortable being seen in public. She wants to have Travis Brown's babies, which, I mean, that alone speaks volumes. I'm not even kidding when I say that. She's clearly I think actually in many ways Ronda was a mess psychologically even before her loss to Holly Holm. I think at this point she's super fragile to the point where I don't know what another loss would do to her psyche.
I think another loss gets her out of the sport completely.
Yeah, retirement is I think that's secondary. You know what I mean? I'm not talking from from an actual tangible point of view. Okay, she retires. If she loses, she retires. She's never fighting again. I'm pretty sure about that. But I don't know how she takes it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's
well, she'll be fine. She'll cry afterwards. She'll look up. She'll see Travis Brown, and everything will be all right.
She'll say, "I want his babies." That's literally what happened to the first. Keep in mind, whether she was being literal or not, when she got on Ellen after her loss to Holly Holm, she did speak about suicide. You remember that?
I do.
You don't?
No, I do.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I think that is, that is pretty indicative. So, she's super insecure. I think she's not comfortable in her own skin in many ways with the way she carries herself on the sport. And it's not even I know all these things have become apparent post Holly Holm loss. Well, but you've heard plenty of stories before that where she was a complete bitch to other fighters, especially not especially exclusively women fighters. There was a really insane story that, again, I wish I remember, where she got super upset. Do you remember the story? You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. It wasn't. Was it with Paige Van Zandt? Wasn't it? Misha Tate told the story.
It was Paige Van Zandt, actually, and Misha Tate and Paige. I think Misha Tate told the story.
Yeah, Misha Tate told the story, and it was how just Ronda was sort of jealous of Paige Van Zandt. I'm gonna look it up right now.
Yeah, she told Paige, like, you don't talk to me and whatever, and she stormed on. She was, like, completely out of it. And, I mean, Misha Tate told that story, so you could claim that, the source is not particularly reliable considering she's hardly impartial when it comes to Ronda. But she did say it publicly and named Paige Van Zandt, so, I don't think she would just make up a story like that when it could easily be debunked. Since she actually named...
Paige Van Zandt confirmed this story.
Okay, so did you have the story?
I do. It's long, but I'll read what Misha Tate said.
Just give us, the nutshell.
No, I'm going to read the whole thing.
Gee. Okay, go.
So this is what Misha Tate is saying on Joe Rogan's podcast. So Paige was also at the VIP party, and Paige and I have spoke. We're friendly. Don't know her that well. Anyway, she felt... the need. She came up to me like, Misha, I have to tell you this experience I had with Ronda. I'm like, oh, what? And she's like, well, we were at a Reebok deal just recently, and we were at a shoot, and I was trying to find her so we could get a picture, and the Reebok people were like, don't ask Ronda for a picture. And she was like, why? They were like, just stay away from Ronda. Don't ask her for a picture. And she was like, okay. And then Ronda apparently came up to her later, cussed her out, and Ronda said... fuck you, you fair-weathered bitch. How dare you cross me? And Paige was like, what are you talking about? And Ronda said, you congratulated Holly Holm for beating me, so fuck you, you fucking fair-weathered 150-pound. Then that's it. So, yeah, and Paige Van Zandt confirmed this. So
seriously, she was upset that another fighter just did something... I don't even think Paige even meant, that whole she just congratulated her because it's It's
a win. It's a title victory.
It's a win. It's a title win. You just tweet about it and you move on.
Right.
By all accounts, maybe the UFC asked her to congratulate her.
I was about to say, maybe the UFC asked her to do that. Remember when they DM'd, what was that, when, Ronda was on the cover of...
Yeah, she was on the cover of something like either Fitness Magazine or something, maybe a bigger
Sports Illustrated. I thought it was Sports Illustrated. And, they DM'd all their fighters and said... And they told them what to tweet, exactly. Just copy and paste this tweet and tweet it out.
They needed to tweet... So, seriously, this is how spoon-fed Ronda has been in the UFC. And this is not just the UFC wanting to promote her. The UFC realizes how fragile she is in general, and that was before she lost to Holly Holm, that whole thing. So they want to, very carefully feed her ego, her very fragile ego, in a way to keep her happy because they know how, I don't want to use unstable and necessarily, the super literal way. I'm not here to diagnose her or anything, you know what I mean? But her ego is pretty unstable, let's put it that way. So this whole thing adds sort of an interesting narrative because before that, honestly, I'll admit I've never been that interested in Ronda Rousey fights. At the beginning, she's a fantastic grappler. The way she moves, the way she can get arm bars off of scrambles and stuff. I'm not trying to diminish her grappling skills. And I insist grappling skills because when we break down the fight, I'll talk about the other aspects of her game. But for the most part, she was fighting girls who were pretty overmatched. She was beating them super quickly. I'm not saying it wasn't good or anything for the sport. It was really good for the sport. People were clearly interested. The buy rate, the media attention she got. I think she exceeded expectations in terms of media attention she was able to bring to the UFC, and she deserves credit for that. Remember, there was a time where we even were arguing, who's the biggest UFC star? Is it Ronda Rousey or Jon Jones? And at this point, it's even stupid to even consider that question. It's Ronda Rousey by a mile. So the fact that she was able to reach what she was able to reach... I know what you're going to say. Shut up. Because I remember I was on the fence about it, and I was leaning towards Jon Jones, right?
If only Jon Jones had gotten mentioned every week on NFL broadcasts.
Well, I guess the UFC dropped the ball with that one. But I actually remember you and I arguing about this, and you cited, and that was fairly early, before Ronda started doing millions on pay-per-views and whatever, And you said Ronda's the bigger star, and I was like, nah, I'm pretty sure. Like, I still go John Jones. Well, you were right about that.
Well, Ronda Rousey is the biggest star in UFC ever. So
according to Dana White.
That's right. Of course I was right.
So, keep in mind...
I don't think... Like, the first Rousey fight against Liz Carmouche, because it was the first women's UFC fight, like, that was a big deal. I think the Miesha Tate
Keep in
fight
mind, soccer moms were going crazy over that.
I think the Miesha Tate fight in the UFC was a big deal. Kind of everything after that, I agree with you. Was redundant. Where it's like, oh, it's a Ronda Rousey fight. She's going to destroy this poor girl in a matter of seconds. And she did up until Holly Holm. She did.
The thing is, again, this is strictly from my perspective. I want to make that clear because I know a lot of people listening to this could go like, well, you know, I enjoyed watching her destroy people in a minute or 15 seconds or whatever. And, like, more power to you. I've got nothing to say about that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I enjoyed seeing Anderson Silva fight against overmatched opposition. But I think, first of all, the skill discrepancy between his opponents and Ronda's opponents is not the same. His opponents mostly were legitimately skilled. Secondly, the way he did it was kind of what excited me about it. The thing about Ronda is the way she was doing it in terms of dominance is phenomenal. Like there's nothing to say, but I don't know, personally, I just didn't find it that interesting to see her punch somebody once or knee her once or armbar her in 15 seconds to be can't miss television or can't miss entertainment, just from my perspective. And that has nothing to do with my opinion of Ronda in general, which isn't very high, by the way, as a person. But, you know, and that has nothing to do with her telling me that I need to get a hobby. Unlike what Todd Bergman once suggested. So, all that bullshit aside, it is important to note that Ronda Rousey is a Sandy Hook truther as well. So, you know, that actually what prompted her to tell me the whole get a hobby thing, right? Because
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
she tweeted a video that was meant to not discredit. It was. That's a wrong choice of words. She tweeted a video that was meant to expose how the whole Sandy Hook massacre was like this government orchestrated scam, and no children were actually killed, and all that bullshit. And obviously, the backlash was huge against her. And her one supporter actually was Bloodstained Lane, and she was retweeting him to sort of like. To seek validation. So that's what I tweeted. I said, I think the moment you're seeking validation from Bloodstained Lane, you're doing it wrong. And she tweeted it at me, the moment you care about my interaction with Bloodstained Lane is the moment you need to get a hobby.
That's right.
She owned me.
You got owned online.
That's right. Still haven't recovered from that. My Twitter credible, I think I lost about 150 followers after that. Out of a total 300. Took me time to rebuild. Just like Ronda after the Holly Holm fight. I think Todd Bergman even congratulated Ronda on her tweet, and I called him a fair-weather bitch.
Todd Bergman tweeted me yesterday that Russell Westbrook was overrated.
Did he really?
Yeah, because he didn't tweet me. I texted him Merry Christmas, and he said Merry Christmas. Russell Westbrook is overrated. And then after the game, I sent him that Russ gif where he points to the Sixers fan that flipped him off and everything.
Yeah, and laughs.
Yeah.
Todd Bergman has some. I love Todd Bergman, but he has some pretty shit hot takes. Let's be serious. I mean, come on, you got to admit.
No, it's very true.
So anyway, that's Ronda Rousey in a nutshell, really. That really, I mean, and for all her feminist icon bullshit, she's dating somebody who's accused of domestic violence. So, there's a lot to question with Ronda Rousey, including her hatred for lube.
If you gotta use lube, you're not the dude.
Exactly. Her rapping skills could use some work as well. And beyond Loop, she also had some hot takes about, what did she call them? Do nothing bitches.
Yeah, I tweeted that today. Is Ronda a do-nothing bitch because she's doing nothing for Fight Week? She's not doing any media.
That's a good tweet.
Thank you.
I didn't see it.
I was very proud of that one. So
basically, Ronda Rousey says
like
a lot of dumb things.
She does say a lot of dumb things. She's a really very easy person to dislike.
Yeah. She does say a lot of dumb things, and it's not even in the Tito Ortiz way. I wish. I mean, everybody should say dumb things in the Tito Ortiz way, but unfortunately, there's only one Tito. Where it's like, okay, this person is clearly like, I mean, at this point, I don't say like, you know,
we're 3 weeks away from the biggest clash of the millennium.
So I'm not going to say anything bad about Tito Ortiz in hopes of not jinxing that fight, so I'll be quiet about that. And she's not even, she doesn't say dumb things in the Chael Sonnen kind of way, where she's clearly going overboard for the purpose of you know, just kind of like marketing her own personality, just doing a pro wrestling shtick basically. She just says dumb things because she says dumb things. Like it's really as simple as that. And she is a very easy person to dislike. And for the whole, you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody this side of Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta who would tell you that Ronda Rousey is a likable person. Now, that might not mean much.
You might like her, but yeah, she's not...
She's not a likable person. There's a difference. Like, you might like her.
Ronda is... I guarantee the people that know her would probably say something to the effect of Ronda is Ronda.
That's never a good thing. It's
you know that bit, right?
That Ronda is Ronda?
Oh, no. When someone says, like, oh, yeah, so-and-so is so-and-so, it basically means so-and-so is an asshole, but we tolerate them.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like Dana's Dana. You know, they say that about... Nobody says that... Like, if somebody were to tell me, oh, what do you think of Jeremy? I wouldn't say Jeremy's Jeremy. I would say Jeremy's writing is Jeremy's writing. But that's a different story altogether. No offense, buddy. You know, I love you.
No, that's very fair. I don't think my writing is asshole. It's absurd.
Yeah, like if you were telling me to describe your writing, I think that's the only way I could possibly describe your writing. But beyond that, like, you would find good things to say about people you know, if you have good things to say about people you know. So, yeah. And I can totally see, I can still see, in spite of all of that, the appeal. It's undeniable. And her appeal certainly, as I said, was beyond anybody's expectations. And Dana White, apparently, according to recent reports, she's one of his best friends in the world. I'm pretty sure he has a crush on her, if not being in love with her. Keep in mind,
Lorenzo Fertitta has a creepy picture of her.
Oh, a creepy painting. So here's a story about that painting. This is totally legit, by the way. So Mike Fagan... somebody I recommend everybody should follow on Twitter, by the way, tweeted that picture of Lorenzo Fertitta's office from back in the Zuffa days that had a super weird Ronda Rousey painting. And I swear I was looking at that tweet, and my 7-year-old nephew walks into the room, looks at the picture, and goes like, that is a very weird image. He didn't use the word painting because, I mean, he just said that is a very weird image or picture. I don't even remember what he said. While pointing at the exact, like, Ronda painting. So, you know, when a 7-year-old can spontan, then yeah. So, look, keep in mind, Ronda after winning...
I think it's a weird image if it's not Ronda Rousey. Like, it's kind of a futuristic face burn.
Right.
I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it is kind of a weird image, but the fact that it looks 99.9% like Ronda Rousey makes it creepy weird.
And the fact that he has it in his, like, it's a combination of the painting itself, the fact that it's Ronda Rousey in the painting, and the fact that Lorenzo has it up his wall.
Right. Is
like, it's really a hat trick of creepiness. On top of all of that, keep in mind, Ronda Rousey, and this might not look like a big deal, but to me, it really spoke volumes. After winning one of her fights, posted a picture either on Twitter or Instagram of her having shots with Lorenzo Fertitta and Dana White after the fight. So her employers we're celebrating her win. Like, okay, I mean, nobody's dumb. We all know the UFC wanted her to win. Even if it wasn't for just personal reasons, even from a business point of view, they definitely wanted her to win. That's why Dana White looked like somebody killed his dog after Holly Holm killed Ronda Rousey. But you don't see that with everybody else, with anybody else, actually.
They probably did it with Chuck Liddell, let's be honest.
Okay, fair enough. But those two were legitimately super close friends. And you could say the same about Ronda Rousey, sure. But yeah, I still think it's not the same. Anybody that's been watching since, you could tell it's not the same.
No, I agree.
Just the extent they go to, there is a certain overprotection that is unlike anything that's happened with any other athlete in the UFC. Not even close, actually. No, nothing else.
I think this week really proves the overprotection. Right. Like, you're not having her do media, and they call it, like, it's the last event of the year. They called this week, like, Ultimate Media Week, and then you're not having your main event fighters. Really thanks to one person. Like, if this isn't Ronda Rousey in the main event, and it's Amanda Nunes against, Kat Zingano, like, they're doing media. They're not pulling it for Kat Zingano.
Yeah. This is special treatment for Ronda Rousey. It's
clearly just one person. And, yeah, the fact that 6 months ago they pulled Conor from arguably the biggest show of the year. It didn't turn out to be that way, and it didn't turn out to be that way thanks in large part to them pulling
because
Conor.
If Conor was on that card, it would have been the biggest show of the year by a country mile. It might have been the biggest show ever.
Yeah, if Conor and Nate is the main event of that card, it's the biggest show.
It's the biggest show of the year by far.
Yeah.
Like, nothing else comes close. And I want to make one thing clear, honestly. All of this is not whining. I truly, honestly do not care that the UFC has treated Ronda Rousey that way. I couldn't give two shits that the UFC isn't doing media this week. I never listen to those press conferences anyway. Like, nobody – this is just, like, pure observation because – It is an interesting situation. I don't feel about it one way or the other. I think Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't think it's this huge deal as far as trying to promote the fight and whatnot. As I said, she would have given cliched answers. Maybe Nunes stirs it up a little bit, but for the most part, these pre-fight or week of press conferences don't mean a whole lot. But it is observation in the fact that they're definitely treating her differently. And I think it all just plays into – we'll actually get to breaking down the fight. But it all plays into the fight because the mindset is something that has to be questioned going into the fight. Like, we can look at their skills and talent-wise, like, Rousey is definitely good enough to beat Amanda Nunes. But – if she walks in there and is just already has this defeatist attitude and just reacts terribly to the first strike thrown, like, it doesn't matter how skilled she is, she's going to lose the fight.
Yeah, that's why, honestly, all of this is, in a way, was like an intro to breaking down the fight because it is what makes the fight interesting. It's not necessarily the clash of styles. It's not how they match up. It's because if this fight happens 14 months ago, everybody would unanimously be predicting a Rousey blowout win. It might be true, it might not be true. It might, I don't know if that's how it would have unfolded, but now one loss and everything's changed. And that aura of
one loss and just everything that's happened since that loss.
Everything that's transpired since the domino effect, that pretty much everything we've talked about.
Yeah, if she just lost to Holly Holm, let's look at the Conor McGregor situation. Like, he loses to Nate Diaz, but he's immediately back up. He assessed the fight like right after. Granted, he didn't get knocked unconscious, but he was up assessing the fight, assessing his performance, and he expended too much energy. And he was immediately asking for the rematch at the same weight The only thing he wanted to do differently was do less media so he could focus on his training camp. And no one questioned McGregor and his mindset going into that rematch. It was basically, how can he change? How can he adapt? What did he learn from that first fight that he can use in the second fight? Whereas Rousey, because she took 14 months off and because she's been persona non grata this whole time, you have to question these things and wonder where she's truly at.
Keep in mind, with Rousey, it's everything you said. And on top of that, at one point, we didn't know she would come back. Actually, the general consensus was that she was done. So, I mean, it was never confirmed or anything, but most of us, I think, were leaning towards, she's done. She's not going to fight again. This, in many ways, I think when this fight was announced, I actually was kind of surprised. I wouldn't say I was shocked or anything, but I always saw it as 60-40 in terms of 60% her not coming back. That's what I was leaning towards anyway. So the mere fact that she was at the on top of the world, undefeated, destroying everybody within a minute or so, for the most part, and all of a sudden one loss. I mean, granted, it was devastating, and we're questioning, she might not come back, and it was all due to her reaction to the loss. It wasn't people speculating or anything. It was just all the things we've talked about. And that was one last thing before we actually talk about the fight itself. That's what the UFC's created, though. Like, they've not only have they overprotected her, but they have deliberately, I think, they've deluded themselves and in turn deluded her with their hype in a way that was just beyond belief, and people were eating it up. Remember all the pound-for-pound talk, whether she's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, not women's best fighter, the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. And in a world where I want to say Demetrius Johnson and John Jones and Jose Aldo and Conor McGregor exist, but there are probably literally 20 other fighters that
she's a once-in-an-ever fighter.
Exactly. So think about that. We joked about all the once-in-an-ever human thing. They literally call her. She was not only Joe Rogan on his podcast went up and said Ronda Rousey is not a once-in-a-lifetime athlete. I don't even know if it's his podcast. Might have been on some.
No, it was on the promo for the Holly Holm fight.
Yeah, exactly. He said she's not only a once-in-a-lifetime athlete. She is a once-in-an-ever person. Once in an ever. First of all, I don't know what a once in an ever is. I've never heard that before, but whatever. Ronda Rousey is a once in an ever person. On his podcast, he had her on. He literally called her to her face as having K1 champion level kickboxing. Not K1 level kickboxing. K1 champion level kickboxing, and teared up. Joe Rogan had a tear in his eye while talking about the impact of Ronda Rousey and on women's sports and what it means to him as somebody with a daughter. Now, look, that might have been sincere. I'm not going to call Joe Rogan a wuss or anything. If he has a tear in his eye as a man with a daughter because of Ronda's impact, okay, more power to him. I don't think what she's doing is necessarily revolutionary. Plenty of women athletes have been, I want to say, way more successful than Ronda Rousey ever was. Granted, she's doing it in men's sports, let's be honest. So that part is undeniable. I'm not going to sit here and compare her to Serena Williams. Well, mainly because Serena's a much better athlete, but also because it's a different type of sport. So the comparisons are not necessarily super accurate. But okay, there's no denying her impact on women's athlete, on feminism, whatever you want to call it, in general. But the just pure hyperbole into blowing everything she was doing out of proportion was beyond belief. And then all of a sudden she loses and everything came crashing down. Dude, and people all of a sudden were like, oh, well, they hyped the hell out of her. It was obvious this was going to happen. Joe Rogan actually said Ronda was a product of overhype. Dude, you had her on your own podcast and told her to her face that she has K1 champion level kickboxing. And then you're criticizing your own employers, which is fair. I mean, for overhyping her, that is kind of like the hypocrisy was beyond belief. So put all of that aside, and Ronda Rousey stepping inside the cage, and I feel like whatever mental state she's in might be, in a way, a double-edged sword. Like, let's say, first of all, obviously, you said, you've alluded to if she has a defeatist attitude, if she's lost a lot of confidence, if she's doubting herself. I mean, obviously, that can't be good. But I would say even the other side of the spectrum might not be good as well. If she has a chip on her shoulder, wanting so bad to prove everybody wrong, wanting to still prove that she's still the best or whatever, because she seems like the kind of person who's so intense that she would get so hell-bent on that. She is so emotional, not in a good way at all, to where that might affect her performance as well. And I'm not saying it's...
No, I was going to say that's very fair to look at the other side of the opposite of the defeatist attitude. And I actually agree with that point more, is I do think she's more likely than to have a defeatist attitude, to, do her little mean mug when she walks to the cage, and do the mean mug during the stare down, and then just kind of rush in. And that's why I made the comment, like, when she gets hit with that first punch, it's going to be kind of telling. And she may not get hit with the first punch, who knows? But if she does, like, it's going to be pretty telling, because if she comes in super aggressive and she gets hit with that punch, what's that going to do for her? If she's playing it patient and she gets hit with that punch, like, how does she react to it? Like, I really want to know how she's going to react to that first shot. We kind of saw it, and this is why the Lesnar and Rousey comparison kind of works, because this was the thing with Lesnar, is we saw in the Cain fight, he didn't react well to getting hit. And Rousey definitely didn't react well to getting hit by Holly Holm, and they kind of ended the same way. And then Lesnar fights Overeem, and granted, it's a little bit different. He got hit with that first body kick, though, and he just didn't react well to it, and it was kind of all downhill after that.
Yeah, it's not exactly the same. Keep in mind, Lesnar had gotten hit by Carwin and kind of overcame adversity. Lesnar, I think, was more, and I'm only mentioning this not to show like, oh, the analogy is not perfect. We all know the analogy is not perfect, but it's a pretty good one. But I'm saying this to kind of like tie it back to something related to Ronda's skill set and mentality. I think Lesnar was way more conscious of his own limitations even before his first loss. Well, I mean, he lost to Frank Mir, but like even before his loss to Velasquez, than Ronda ever was. I think when I use the word deluded about the UFC's hype of Rousey and how they and Rousey herself believed it, I meant it in a very, very literal way, actually. I think Ronda was, and everybody else actually that bought into Ronda's hype as being superhuman as a fighter, I think the rest of us knew, like even watching her striking, that, okay, look, like let's pump the brakes here. She's able to overwhelm these women with her striking.
Yeah, it was. I think the Miesha Tate fight, the second one, obviously, like really showed that. Remember, Miesha was doing well on the feet in that fight. And then for some reason, she just decided to clinch up all the time. And Rousey eventually got her down and got her in the armbar, which wasn't even a great armbar. But like that kind of showed the holes in Ronda's striking. But then she knocked out a couple of girls, and everybody's like, oh, well, yeah, her striking has improved, and now it's fantastic.
Remember what do I always say about striking in MMA? It rewards aggression. Like that's, I feel like it's so redundant whenever I bring that up, but it really is true. If you fight an overmatched opponent that's not necessarily defensively skilled, you can a lot of fighters get away with being able to just overwhelm them with aggression and power. And that's what Ronda was doing. Like she just bull rushed forward, either punched somebody in the face once and knocked her out, or I'm pretty sure she had like a knee knockout one fight. I could be, yeah.
Yeah, she had a knee to the body.
So yeah, she should just like close the distance, overwhelm them, and once they're in the clinch, I mean, she is fantastic in the clinch. Like, there's no doubt about that. They have to worry about being thrown and subsequently armbarred really, really quickly, which I'll talk to about in a second, because like her ability to get an armbar that quickly off of a clinch takedown is truly, truly unique. I don't want to come off here like I'm totally shitting on Ronda Rousey. Let's be the mere fact that we've already spent like 30 minutes talking about nothing but Ronda Rousey means, I mean, she warrants some kind of attention. So I don't want to come off as being a complete hater here. But anyway, she was really just able to overwhelm these women with aggression. And when she fought somebody, and Holly Holm, even we saw this subsequently, and before the Rousey fight, her striking's good, to be sure, but it's hardly perfect or anything. Holly Holm hadn't looked good before the Rousey fight, and that's in part why nobody gave her a shot, and she certainly hasn't looked good since. Somehow finds herself another title fight, though. So, but you look at what she was able to do to Ronda in that fight. There's a very, well, now famous gif, but that's pretty telling of Ronda, that fight where she just like bull rushes Holly Holm forward and Holly ducks and Ronda like slips, and it literally looks like a matador evading a bull. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I called that the greatest non-Anderson defensive move in UFC history, and I stand by it.
Yeah, because it's not necessarily a great defensive move from a technical wizardry perspective. Actually, it's pretty standard, but it just looks so embarrassing. It was kind of similar to the Anderson, how he evaded the Bonner spinning back kick. I think that's sort of what made you think of that. And Ronda it truly was embarrassing how she had to like stalk her all the way across the cage aimlessly without being able to land much and just getting completely lit up in doing so. And it was such what's the term? It was such a reality check for Ronda and everybody that bought into her whole improved striking thing, to where, and I'm like, look, seriously, this might sound silly, but think about it. You've seen the videos of Ronda shadowboxing, right? You've seen the videos of her and Edmund shadowboxing. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've seen the videos where it looks like she's trying to hit people with her thumb and not her knuckle. Her jabbing technique, really just her striking, her boxing technique altogether is not good.
It's embarrassing. That's the other thing, and that kind of like, that is why a few weeks ago when we talked about the state of women's MMA, we have to be a bit realistic about what it really is at this point. And striking, when it comes to many of them, is still, I mean, striking in MMA in general still could use a lot of work, let alone women's MMA. And that is not criticism, it's just like the state of how things are. So it truly is embarrassing. And you can say, like, oh, you're basing this off of like a gif of her shadowboxing. But that actually is pretty telling. Her technique is terrible. So
it's not one gif. There's literally five or six videos out there that are like this. Yeah.
I agree. It's not. I'm not like very carefully nitpicking here. It's pretty obvious. You've all seen it. It looks pretty terrible, and it's been confirmed in the cage. It's not. You know, I'm not basing this breakdown off of like of Ronda Rousey hitting air, which was all she did against Holly Holm. So you look at all of that, and this is only relevant because we've been brought to believe, or they've tried to make us believe that she's a K1 level kickboxer now. So this is important to point out. That her striking in general, offensively and defensively, which was pretty obvious against Holly Holm, is extremely elementary still. Her footwork's terrible. Her head movement's non-existent. And look, aggressive fighters, even at the elite level, can get away with that. I think a good comparison, actually, that I can think of is Vanderlei Silva in his prime. Now, you could say, oh, MMA was different back then. Yeah, men's MMA. Women's MMA wasn't even a thing. So women's MMA in many ways in many ways is now where men's MMA was at the time. Maybe not exactly, but you know what I mean. It's sort of like it's still a process, it's still developing, and fighters will continue to get better. Now, obviously, they have more. Women's MMA have more years of data and video footage to look at, but basically, somebody even a prime Vanderlei Silva would never be able to dominate in today's game because. I would hope he wouldn't, and I love Vanderlei Silva in his prime, don't get me wrong, but I would hope that fighters would be able to punish his terrible habits. But he was fantastic at cutting off the ring. He had extremely good timing. Like for somebody that whose punches looked so just wild, his timing even on counters was fantastic. He knew how to overwhelm you. There was a science to it. It's not like, oh, my opponent, even okay, I know he kicked a lot of Japanese cans' asses, and yeah, it was beautiful to watch, but at the same time kind of sad. But he did beat some great fighters as well. And it's not just, he didn't just strictly do it off of them being overmatched and afraid of him, so he was just able to aimlessly move forward and do it. There was a science to the way he was able to implement his aggression. The reason I mentioned this is Ronda Rousey does not do that. She just walks forward and throws. And I think one thing that was also a reality check against Holly Holm is if you fight somebody skilled enough and prepared for you, you need a game plan. That's one thing I remember you and I even talked about it at the time. I don't think Ronda ever had a game plan because she knew that all she had to do is walk into the cage. She was so much better, such a better athlete, so much more physically imposing, such a superior grappler, and as she got better at striking, a superior striker as well that has more power than most of these girls, so where she can just go in there, rush forward, and do whatever she wants when she's in close quarters. If she clinches up in arm bars, she clinches up in arm bars. If she hits them in the face and they fall, then that's that. She really had no game plan whatsoever, and all of a sudden she came up against Holly Holm, and it was like, whoa, okay, what do I do now? I don't think I've seen a fighter as lost in a high-profile title fight as I've seen Ronda Rousey. It's, at least of all, a champion. So the reason I bring this up is, okay, what happens now? We've talked about everything but the fight for about 40 minutes now. So what happens now? Is she suddenly going to have a game plan? Is she going to watch tape on Amanda Nunes? Is Edmund the guy who's really going to prepare you for Amanda Nunes and carefully dissect her strengths and weaknesses? Are you even going to be able to implement it after years of fighting a certain way and pretty much being able to get away with whatever you want inside the cage? That is also... It's technical, but at the same time kind of mental as well. It kind of adds to the whole mental aspect thing, where it's not just how confident you're feeling, because your whole preparation also adds to your confidence, whether falsely or rightly. It might lead to a false sense of confidence, and it might lead to a justified confidence, depending on what you've done. I personally, and this is pure conjecture here, I don't think Ronda's the type of person that's going to do things much differently. I think we've all you've read the parts where her mom, even before she even lost to Holly Holm, was demanding that she just like fire Edmund, and Ronda would have none of it, right?
Yeah, Ronda. It seems like she kind of suffers from that BJ Penn syndrome of she likes
only
being
worse, but yeah.
Yeah, she likes being around people who tell her she's great and tell her she's doing everything correctly, and she can just beat up in the gym, where she goes in there, she just has a nice, easy workout because she kicks everybody's asses, and that's that. She doesn't actually improve on it because she's not challenged by anybody.
It is definitely that way, and it's not exactly... all of this adds to a potentially disastrous result, honestly, except for one fact. She's still a good fighter. She's still a really good fighter. You know, I said this what seems like an eternity ago, but it was on this podcast like 10 minutes ago, that if this fight had happened 14 months ago, we would be predicting an easy blowout win for Ronda. The reason I bring this up is now everybody seems to be predicting that Ronda will get destroyed, which is a possibility, don't get me wrong. But I think maybe people are losing sight of the fact that there are still some elements that she does far better than any of these girls that is borderline undefendable. When she gets you in the clinch and she judo throws you and she goes for that armbar, like Holly Holm, I think one of the most impressive things she did in that fight, beyond just kick Ronda's ass, is how good she defended the armbar. Because Ronda actually, even though it was a complete domination, I don't know if you remember, but Ronda had her in a spot where
Ronda got her. I watched the fight like a week ago, and Ronda got her down and had that top position. She actually had Holly Holm took her down at one point, and the Rogan and Goldberg were just talking about, oh, that's probably not a good idea to be in Ronda's guard where she can go for the armbar. And she had her in a decent armbar at one point, and to her credit, Holly Holm escaped.
Yeah. So Holly Holm, I mean, she's a Greg Jackson product. She was prepared. And Amanda Nunes, like, she can grapple for sure. But you know, I still think Ronda Rousey, for all her flaws and whatever, Ronda Rousey going for an armbar is still must be one of the scariest sights in MMA. You know, level of competition aside, it is the most devastating weapon in MMA, at least for the past few years. And I don't think anything else is actually close. Connor's left hand at this point, given the level of competition, probably, and the recent success, obviously, takes the cake. But honestly, Ronda's armbar, as far as it is kind of the grappling equivalent of a knockout punch, unlike the Jake Shields guillotine, which was, you know, overblown by the GSP camp. But Ronda's armbar is legitimately a super dangerous weapon. In fact, her whole clinch game and how easily she's able to initiate it is a problem that, for the most part, was unsolvable by a lot of these girls. So just because, not by law, by everyone but Holly Holm. So just because Ronda lost once doesn't mean every other girl got better to where, oh, they're able to figure out Ronda Rousey. Look, Ronda Rousey's weaknesses, I would argue, were pretty obvious even before the Holly Holm fight. We've talked about them. Like, that's why I never bought into how good they're trying to make her out to be, is because, like, look at her. Look at the way she's moving. Look at her striking. Everything we just talked about. It's pretty obvious, but except, like, who's really going to expose it? Well, Holly Holm was able to. That doesn't mean that all these girls will be able to. Now, Amanda Nunes, honestly, I'm only saying this based on memory because I have yet to rewatch her fight with Miesha Tate. But her jab was on point with that fight. In that fight, her right hand was on point. She needs to have that completely on point against Ronda, because you cannot afford to let her close the distance and initiate the clinch. It's truly rare that the clinch, just being in the clinch with a fighter, can be so devastating. It's even more devastating than it was with Anderson Silva or John Jones. Yeah, they can destroy you in the clinch, but you still have time to defend yourself. Against Ronda, you often are tapping out before you know what hit you, just because she was able to initiate the clinch. So if I'm Amanda Nunes, honestly, that's the aspect I'm working on this entire training camp, is what do I do if Ronda Rousey is able to clinch up? But more importantly, how do I prevent her from doing it to begin with? Now, the how do I prevent her part, in pure theory, is simple enough. Yeah, like you jab her in the face and you keep your distance. Obviously, in terms of execution, you know, your coach is not just going to tell you to jab. You need to figure out clear footwork patterns and whatnot. And I do think Amanda Nunes' footwork is actually better than Ronda, but she will need to keep moving. The blueprint was there even before the Holly Holm fight. You even brought up the Miesha Tate fight, the rematch in the UFC, or was it the third match? How many times did they fight?
They fought twice.
2 or 3?
Twice.
Oh, twice. Okay. So the rematch in the UFC where Miesha was doing that, but I kind of feel like Miesha, who loves to clinch up against everybody, went to the clinch off of like almost muscle memory and habit, because that's where she's comfortable, even though it was definitely to her detriment against Rousey. You know, obviously Nunes has to fight smarter than that. But one thing Nunes has going for her is she can hit hard. And, you know, you brought up what happens if Ronda gets cracked in the face. And that is actually by far the most interesting aspect of that fight. What does happen if she get? Is it sort of, quote unquote PTSD? Tim Kennedy wouldn't approve, but
She'd be a pussy.
Yeah, exactly. Would she really, would she have flashbacks of the whole fight? Was she able to put that fight behind her completely and just, you have to wonder if she was able to put that behind her in the weeks leading up to this fight, which is extremely doubtful. But you also wonder if she's going to be able to put it behind her in the cage if things go south. Because you mentioned, like, if she's going to be able to hit her on at all. And I do think that's a legitimate asterisk. Because there's seriously a chance that Ronda Rousey just walks in there, clinches up, takes her down, and submits her. Again, if this fight had happened 14 months ago, that would be the exact prediction. Now, Amanda Nunes has gotten better since.
Yeah, Nunes, I thought she looked really good in the Miesha Tate fight. And Miesha Tate, and she retired one fight later, but she's always been a relatively skilled fighter. And Nunes was not only on point with her jab and her right hand, but she showed good hips in that fight. Tate landed a takedown, and she immediately sprung back up.
She popped right back to her feet. I do remember that.
Yeah,
actually.
And she also has solid leg kicks. Like, she has a TKO by leg kick victory in the UFC, and she's clearly not afraid to throw them. She trusts her defensive wrestling and her grappling to where she's going to throw them. And it reminds me of, you mentioned kind of comparing Rousey to Wanderlei Silva. And that was the thing with Wanderlei Silva. You mentioned, like, his countering ability and his timing. Like, go back and watch Wanderlei Silva fights. A lot of his knockouts come off of guys trying to throw kicks. And he would just time them perfectly.
Yeah. Keith Jardine. I remember that.
Yeah, Jardine, and even some fights in Pride. And, like, Rousey's never really shown that. I just don't know how Rousey... Has she really ever been leg kicked outside of the Holly Holm fight?
That when you brought that up, I don't remember it. Not extensively enough to
like
where
Holly Holm uses the no can defend oblique kick that all Greg Jackson fighters use, but no one's really. And I mean, this is a testament to Ronda Rousey, how she's basically beaten everybody in a minute to where no one's ever really set their feet and attacked her with leg kicks. So yeah, I think that's the thing with Rousey as well, is not only how is she going to react to that first punch if it lands, but how is she going to react if it goes past 30 seconds? Because I don't even think she reacted well before Holly Holm started teeing off on her. Like, once Holm got back up from that initial takedown and survived that initial armbar attempt, like, that's when things went really south for Rousey. She just seemed to have no plan B. She was so used to just overwhelming these girls immediately, and when she couldn't do that to Holly Holm, she kind of just froze and panicked, and it didn't help that Holm was a superior striker. And so that's what I worry about when you were talking about if she comes in overconfident with that chip on her shoulder, wanting to prove to her critics and to herself that what she's put everything behind her. Like, if she comes in with that mindset and then rushes Nunes and doesn't finish her with the first flurry, or doesn't take her down an armbar within a minute, what happens after that? Because she didn't react well when she was on top of the world. Now there's already some doubt there. I don't care what her mindset is going into this fight. You know there's some doubt there, and if Nunes is able to survive that initial flurry, that doubt is only going to increase.
Yeah, like, keep in mind one thing. I think if the first round ends and Nunes wins the round, it doesn't matter how decisively, but if she wins the round, I would be very surprised if Ronda Rousey wins the fight. I think just the mere fact of Nunes being able to establish for 5 minutes that for those 5 minutes she was superior, albeit slightly. In other words, if she doesn't get blown out of the water, because I think Ronda will start immediately look for ideas and probably not find any. Because look, I've just showered Ronda with praise as to how good her clinch game and grappling is. But Ronda's, for the most part, she is a one-trick pony in the general sense that it is close the distance, and once you're in close quarters, you either beat them up close or you clinch up and submit them. Now, she's phenomenal at that one trick, don't get me wrong. But if that isn't working, really, what can she do? You talk about plan B. What can that plan B is when your skill set doesn't really possess any? You know what I mean? Like, because, look, Ronda hasn't acquired new skills in that 1 year. Let's be clear. She probably spent, I want to say, 6 months, probably not even punching not even the air. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like she's been working extensively on improving for a whole year. Like, when do you think, realistically, like, I think I would assume Ronda resumed serious sparring, like, when? Late spring at best, right?
I would say the earliest might have been June or July.
Yeah, so late spring, early summer even.
Yeah.
Okay. Her striking might have improved. The things she already does well with her striking, they might have even gotten better, for sure. Like, her ability to land that left hand might have gotten better. Her knees in the clinch might have gotten better. But I would be amazed if her defensive footwork has gotten better, or if she has any head movement. Because it really is one of the most difficult things to improve in MMA. I don't think it's really necessarily a surprise that the fighters that improve dramatically, oftentimes, like the fighters that are really good at something, when they improve dramatically, it tends to be like they're really good. And I'm not saying this off of data or anything. It's an observation. I might not even be accurate when I say this, but it oftentimes is like fighters that are good at striking, that have like kind of decent takedown defense, and with time they develop like phenomenal takedown defense or like phenomenal overall defensive grappling. You'll rarely see an extremely great grappler develop great striking. You know what I mean? Like they might
outside of Damian Maia,
right? And his phantom punches. Like you could be a really good grappler and already like a serviceable striker. Like, let's say Fabricio Werdum, a legitimate grappling wizard, one of the best grapplers in the world, not even just in MMA, period, who's already, like, good at striking, but was able to find, I wouldn't even say good at striking. At some point, he was actually kind of, like, mediocre at best.
He bitch-slapped people as part of his striking.
Yeah, like, it was pretty actually average. But he was able to find a niche with his knees in the clinch. Like, he developed that. So he became more than just like this grappling wizard. He was like, okay, if he gets the clinch, he could really hurt you there. So he developed that. Ronda kind of did that as well, actually. She was a really great grappler, and she was able to develop like knees in the clinch and stuff. We don't have enough data to kind of assess just how much she's been able to improve in that regard, but she at least added that to her game. But you'll never see Fabricio Werdum have great defensive footwork and head movement and be able to slip punches and counter, or, in other words,
slip and rip.
Exactly.
Verdum's improved his grappling, or not grappling. Maybe he's improved it. But he's improved his striking, and this is the difference between grapplers who want to improve their striking and Ronda Rousey. He made the significant changes to go to improve his striking, and it obviously didn't happen in the span of 6 months.
Yeah, that's a very important point.
Yeah, it happened over many years, and he had to get out of his comfort zone and go to different camps and different trainers. And Rousey is still with the same people, and again, it's only been 6 months. Like, I don't think you're going to see a different Ronda Rousey in this fight. I think you're just going to see either a return to form where she beats somebody in a minute, or you're going to see just a defeated Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, actually, that's if I want to highlight this fight in a nutshell, that's how I would put it. Like, that is That I think that is perfectly put, honestly, because it really is what it all boils down to in the end. Because yeah, you won't see Ronda improve significantly. I mean, look, we joked about this the other day. Michael Bisping is more or less still the same fighter, even though he's the middleweight champ, and he's been fighting forever and working on improving forever. Yet his footwork is still suspect. When he gets pressured, he still doesn't know how to react. He still circles the wrong way. It's been the same thing for literally like 10 years now.
He still got caught with that overhand right by Dan Henderson 7 years later, when you know that's all he worked on for that camp.
Right.
And that's all he worked on after that fight, is he talked about not circling that way into somebody's power.
He called himself an idiot for circling to Henderson's right hand. He literally called himself an idiot.
And he still got caught by an older, slower, completely shot Dan Henderson. Like,
who's off TRT.
Yeah, it's... I think you said it well earlier. Is 14 months ago, we thought Rousey would have just walked in and defeated her in a minute, and no one would have batted an eye. And now, because of that loss and because of the layoff, things have changed. But I still look at it as that kind of fight. If Rousey walks in, defeats her in a minute, I'm not really gonna bat an eye. Like, I think it's definitely a redemption story, and I guess for her and her fans, it's a good one. But it's not going to be too surprising, because what she's good at is something she's absolutely great at, and she can overwhelm fighters with what she's great at. And Amanda Nunes is a good fighter, but we talked about it probably last week, is you don't feel comfortable picking any of these women in these fights outside of Cyborg and Joanna. Like, those are the only two where it doesn't feel like a 50-50 fight heading into it. And this feels like just another 50-50 fight.
It really is. I think it is actually. If you looked at it 14 months ago, you would say Ronda Rousey beats her in a minute. I don't think anything's changed in the sense that she might. The way she would have done it 14 months ago is the way she would have done it. She would do it this Friday if it were to happen. Except the only thing that's changed since then is Ronda's mental state and confidence, which we've talked about extensively, and the fact that we now have visible, tangible evidence of the other possible outcome, which is Ronda gets lit up. Because even seeing Ronda back then, we knew, like, okay, if a striker shows up that can be able to put a jab in her face and counter and not allow her to close the distance, she could get crushed. Except we didn't know that kind of fighter existed in the women's bantamweight division. Now we saw that with Holly Holm. We saw what Amanda Nunes is capable of, and we saw what Holly Holm did to Ronda Rousey. So you put 1 and 1 together, or 2 and 2 together, and like, okay, therefore, Amanda Nunes might be able to do to Ronda Rousey what Holly Holm did to Ronda Rousey. However, Ronda Rousey might be able to do to Amanda Nunes what she's done to everybody else, save for Holly Holm. So it really is kind of a 50-50
Amanda
fight.
Nunes beat Valentina Shevchenko. Valentina Shevchenko beat Holly Holm. Holly Holm beat Ronda Rousey. MMA math.
This is proof that MMA math
tells me that Amanda Nunes dominates Ronda Rousey. She is 2 fighters better than Ronda Rousey.
Well, that is actually going to be my prediction. I think she will dominate Ronda Rousey, just to cut to the chase.
I really, after an hour and 15 minutes, let's finally make a prediction for this fight.
I think she will dominate her. I'm totally, and I'm not saying this to try to like cover my ass in case she doesn't. I honestly would not be surprised the least bit if.
I think Sammer cut off for a minute. To cover his own ass. Hold on 1 second. Oh, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
What happened?
You cut off. Just keep going. We're still recording. I don't feel like doing any editing.
Yeah, don't edit. Whatever. I just said I'm not trying to cover my own ass here, but on Twitter I'm like the only person saying that, hey, Ronda might still defeat this girl in a minute. Like, she's still capable of doing that. Let's not act like this is not a possibility anymore. However, because of Ronda's mental state, because of the fact that she's Ronda, I guess, is that the way you said?
Ronda is
people
Ronda.
Who know her would
yes.
put it. Yeah, Ronda is Ronda. And because Amanda Nunes is legitimately good, I do think she's going to be able to do what she needs to do to defeat her. But I also think this is close to a 50-50 fight. But this is a very weird 50-50 to where...
It's a 50-50 to where...
it's super each 50 is super lopsided.
Yeah,
if this 150% happens, it's going to be like 100% fight for this one fighter. Like, it's either a blowout or a blowout, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. You said that Nunes is going to dominate her, and that's how she wins. And I really can't see any scenario in which the winning fighter isn't dominant in their performance. Because if Rousey wins... It's hard not to envision her winning by just overwhelming her early and finishing her with strikes or an armbar. And if Nunes wins, it's hard to not imagine her just being patient and picking Rousey apart due to Rousey's over-aggressiveness and Rousey just kind of wilting. Like, the only way I don't feel is it isn't completely dominant is if Rousey has that initial flurry, Nunes survives, and then the first round is kind of iffy, and then the second round, I think, could get ugly from there, though. It is one of those, it's 50-50, but 50% of the time, it works 100% of the time.
Well, there's no better way to sum up this fight than that quote.
I'm going with Nunes as well. I think... I don't know. I don't trust Ronda Rousey's mental state, honestly. I based on the evidence of these last 14 months, it's really tough not to just think that she's just completely out of it and is just fragile and is just already broken going into this fight. There's no evidence that says she's not. And maybe she comes out and overwhelms Nunes. Again, I don't think that would be too surprising. But I don't know where her head is at right now. And it's tough to imagine it being in a good place based on everything we know leading up to this point.
Yeah, I mean... Like, oh shit! Like, God, I hate automatic videos. Anyway, I think we've exhausted all the possibilities when it comes to this fight, and I think we did it justice. Though it is a big fight. Like,
it's
make
a
no
very
mistake
big
about it. You know, it is a big fight. You know, for all my issues with Ronda Rousey, she commands.
She's still the biggest star ever, and she's a rock star, and it takes a lot of energy to be a rock star. It takes
a lot of energy, right? Especially when not only are you a rock star, but you're once in an ever human. Think about that.
Co-main event, Dominic Cruz versus Cody Garbrandt. Really good fight. Garbrandt hits like a Mack truck. Dominic Cruz possibly the best defensive fighter in MMA right now?
That's interesting. I'd have to think about it. Well, you know how I'll go with, but I'm biased. But that is definitely possible.
Cruz's footwork. He's one of those guys, you watch Frankie Edgar use his footwork and movement, and you feel like he's just using it to use it. There's no real setup to it. Who was like that more than Edgar?
Just moving?
Yeah.
Clay Guida.
Oh, yeah, Clay Guida. That's who I wanted to say. Not
Edgar is far, okay, like, that's almost harsh on Frankie Edgar to me. Yeah, Clay Guida is
Yeah, Clay Guida, not Frankie Edgar, is who I was more thinking of. Where he just uses footwork and moves.
He just moves.
For the sake of moving.
And moves his head.
Yeah.
And Mike Goldberg says good head movement, even though he's just moving his head.
Dominic Cruz is one of those guys who really understands movement and footwork and getting in and out with his strikes and making good fighters look not so good. And he mixes in takedowns on top of all of that. Dominic Cruz is coming back and beating TJ Dillashaw, and that was a really close fight. But after his that was his second ACL injury, I think. The Dillashaw fight, he came back and he beat Takeya Mizugaki, and that was off a 3-year layoff. Maybe not quite that long, but it was. Yeah, it does say after nearly 3 years. That was off a 3-year layoff. He beat Mizugaki with a first round, and then he tore his ACL again prior to the Dillashaw fight. He came back from that and beat Dillashaw, and then he beat Faber again and dominated Faber, honestly. Dominic Cruz is really, really, really good on the feet, and I think he does the same thing against Garbrandt, who hits really hard, but it's tough to hit a moving target, and Garbrandt has really just knocked out a lot of guys who don't move like Dominic Cruz moves.
I pretty much co-sign with everything you said. I'm a fan of Dominic Cruz. He might occasionally be... I don't know. I would understand why he would rub people the wrong way occasionally with his personality. I like his fighting style, though. I really like, even back from the WEC days, especially the early UFC days, I think very fondly of his fight with Uriah Faber in 2011. I think that's an underrated fight where it was close, but somehow I wouldn't fault you if you thought Cruz won every round. That's kind of Cruz's style. If he's fighting somebody who's good. If he's fighting somebody who's not good, it's the same sort of fight, only you can't touch him. In addition to, you've talked about his footwork and being able to move in and out. He uses level changes well, just in his striking. And his ability to move in and out and terrific footwork also has made him such a great all-around wrestler. His defensive wrestling is terrific. His offensive wrestling is really good as well. He's really one of those almost just, I don't want to say prototypical. That might be a bit, overstating it. But he's sort of like your model, super solid, well-rounded fighter who's very good at everything. And I feel like very few fighters in that division are on his level. I think he wins this handily, honestly.
Yeah, Garbrandt has knockout power. If he catches Cruz, then he can definitely put him out. And Garbrandt has a wrestling background as well, so maybe those takedowns don't come quite as easy for Dominic Cruz. But he really is, especially when healthy, on a different level from just about everybody in the division because of that movement. And we've talked about it before, how many MMA fighters just don't understand footwork and movement on the feet. But Dominic Cruz is one of the few who does and utilizes it exceptionally well.
That's the main reason why I would say I'm a very big, well, not very big, but I'm a fan of Dominic Cruz. Anybody who's clearly elite at things that other MMA fighters struggle with mightily, I'm a fan.
TJ Dillashaw against John Lineker. The winner of this fight has not been promised a title shot.
Yeah, bullshit. Who else is going to get a title fight? Whatever. That's a great fight. I'm looking forward to that.
It's almost like Cruz and Garbrandt light. Dillashaw pretty much emulated. I wouldn't
say light because Lineker can really, really hit hard.
Dillashaw, what was the word? Aped. He aped Dominic Cruz's style.
Oh, yeah. That was what Anthony Pettis said about Holloway.
Yeah.
Dillashaw has kind of aped Dominic Cruz's style, though.
I mean, more power to him. He probably needed to. Who was TJ Dillashaw before he kind of started doing the Dominic Cruz stuff. He wasn't really. He was your kind of prototypical alpha male guy, and those guys don't win championships.
Look, he became a champion. He must have done something right.
And that fight with Dominic Cruz was extremely close. I actually think I gave it to Dillashaw live, and I on rewatch I gave it to Cruz, but yeah, it was an extremely close fight.
One thing I'll say about TJ Dillashaw, I think that's still an extremely, extremely impressive feat is defeating Renan Barão. Twice. Finishing him twice as well. Did he finish him? Yeah, he finished him twice, right?
Yeah.
That's not something people saw coming. Renan Barão was like on a bazillion fight winning streak before he lost to DJ. I'm pretty sure before he lost to DJ Dillashaw, he had lost like his. Because I remember looking that up at the time. He had lost like the first fight of his career, and then he won literally every other fight. Hold on, here it is.
He won 32. He lost the first fight of his career, and then he went into a no contest in the 12th fight of his career, and otherwise he'd won 32 straight.
Okay, so he went 32 undefeated fights. And it would have been a 32 fight winning streak, but there was a no contest due to an illegal soccer kick, because that's what Wikipedia is telling me at least. So anyway, and he did beat really good fighters, by the way. Like looking at this, like the typical WEC guys that went to the UFC, like Cole Escovedo, Rat Pickett, Scott Jorgensen. Remember that guy?
Yes.
Uriah Faber, Michael McDonald, Eddie Wineland, Uriah Faber again. Like those are all some.
He finished Uriah Faber, which I still think that stoppage was kind of bullshit. But finishing Faber, do what?
That's not easy to do, though.
Finishing Faber still isn't an easy task.
So when TJ Dillashaw finished Renan Barão, and the first time. Because that was late in the fight. I remember that fight. That was a really good fight. He finished him late in the fight. It was like, okay, maybe Barão still gets him in a rematch. And then he did it again. And
yeah, he rocked Renan Barão in the first fight. He caught him with literally the first punch he threw, which was a right hand. And Barão never really recovered after that. Dillashaw just put it on him pretty much the entire fight until he finished. And that was
Barão's excuse. Well, I don't want to say excuse, but that was Barão's.
Right. It is, if that first punch doesn't connect, it's a completely different fight. And in the rematch, he pretty much did the same thing. He dominated him from the outset. And Dillashaw's a really good fighter, and aping Dominic Cruz's style has certainly worked for him. And then there's John Lineker, who just stands in front of you and throws wildly and knocks you out.
I'll go with Dillashaw because I do think the fact that he's aped Dominic Cruz makes him maybe a bad matchup for Lineker, because he is good defensively, doesn't get caught much or anything. And Lineker, I mean, he is a bundle of violence, but he's not necessarily the most technical guy out there. So I'm rolling with Dillashaw, but honestly, I'm kind of hoping Lineker wins, just because even though I think Cruz is a terrible matchup for him, not a big fan of the rematch. I know you said I really don't remember the details of the fight, Cruz Dillashaw that is, but I would rather see something fresh.
Lineker, my issue with him, besides the fact that he just stands there and throws, that's not an issue. I actually love that about him. The John Dotson fight, I think Dotson could have won that fight if he kept moving. I love that Lineker goes to the body. By far one of the more underutilized techniques in MMA. Like, not enough fighters go to the body at all. Lineker does. And in a 5-round fight that's really wearing, a 3-round fight, it's not quite as effective. It's still effective, obviously. But I think that war on John Dotson in their fight, just the body shots. Because by the 4th and 5th round, Dotson was not moving nearly as effective as he was early in the fight. Dillashaw's movement, I think, is going to be an issue for Lineker. Lineker always struggles with these weight cuts. He's missed weight 5 times, and that's a lot. It's kind of surprising. I mean, I guess he hasn't been cut because he keeps winning, and if he wins this fight and makes weight, he's most likely going to get a title shot. It's still an issue when you're missing weight that many times. I think Dillashaw takes it. I don't think it's comfortable though. I think Lineker tags him and has a moment where you wonder if he finishes him, can finish him or not. But Dillashaw's pretty durable. I know he got knocked out by John Dotson, but otherwise he's shown to be a durable fighter. It's a good fight, though. It's a really good fight.
This fight has a really... this card, I was about to say, this card has a really good trio of fights at the top.
Well, the 4th fight was going to be Cain Velasquez against Fabricio Werdum, maybe even the 3rd fight, but we can't have nice things all the way through. That would have been it's unfortunate because I'm not a fan of, like, if you've listened to me for the past few years, you know I'm not a big fan of the heavyweight division, but there's something about a good heavyweight fight, especially on a card like this, that feels like a break from the monotony. You know what I mean? Like it's distinctive. It's like, oh, the big men are here. Now, most of the time, that's never a good thing. Did I just say most of the time that's never a good thing? That's like the 50% of the time it works every time. Most of the time, that's not a good thing. But every now and then, but mainly when Cain Velasquez is involved and a few select other talented heavyweights are involved, that's not the case. However, shockingly, Cain Velasquez pulled out of what seemed to be... How many fights has he pulled out of in the UFC? Is it like 8? No, 8 might be too much. Yeah, 8 might be a little high. It's a lot, though.
It's definitely
really a lot.
It has to be at least 5, though, right?
I'm looking at his Wikipedia page, starting from the beginning. He didn't pull out of much early. He was expected to fight Shane Carwin, but then he was... Well, that's not really pulling out.
Oh, let me stop you right there, though. Like that might not be fair. Like, how many fights did he pull out of? Because sometimes he would just get injured. You know, like it's not all like get injured even though there's no fight schedule, or he gets injured after a fight and he's just out for a year. You know what I mean? And when he's out for that year, no fights is being scheduled. You know what I'm trying to say, right? Like, basically, not every injury means he pulls out of a fight. So he just gets injured. He's like sidelined a lot. After the Brock fight, like he was out a year after that fight, but he didn't have anything scheduled. Yeah, he didn't have anything scheduled.
He was out a year because he had a surgery. And then
he didn't fight.
Yeah, and then the same thing after the Dos Santos loss. I guess he fought Antonio Silva in May, so maybe there was nothing, and then he fought Dos Santos again. I forgot he went on that Dos Santos Silva, Dos Santos Silva, Dos Santos run. What a 5-some of fights that was.
That actually affected his legacy a lot, because even though he won those fights, well, after the first Dos Santos fight, he won all of those fights. He still beat the same 2 guys. You know what I mean? So when people are talking about Cain Velasquez's heavyweight legacy, you don't go like, oh, he beat Dos Santos, Bigfoot, and like you name 2 other good heavyweights. It's like, oh, Dos Santos and Bigfoot, and then you move on to like Travis Brown or whoever else he beat before that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is, it's unfortunate. Cain Velasquez's just whole I want to say his whole reality is unfortunate, but that sounds way too grim. That is not true.
Like he's 34 now.
Yeah, exactly. I think he might go down as it's hard to say because he's a 2-time champ, but he might go down as, I wouldn't say a disappointment necessarily, but a guy who
a missed opportunity,
maybe a missed opportunity. Because he legitimately, if he'd stayed injury-free, keep in mind that's a big if, considering the amount of injuries he had. But a lot might have changed. Like, keep in mind, there's no telling whether that first Dos Santos fight might have been a result of his layoff. I kind of feel it is.
I think it was a pretty big result of the layoff, right, and not following the game plan, obviously.
Of course, because Dana White told it. But, I mean, they did fight 2 more times, and we saw what happened. Granted, that's not necessarily a rule, so maybe he just lost the first one. But getting caught inside a minute, not inside a minute, just over a minute, after being sidelined for a year, yeah, there's correlation there. I mean, you can't fully claim that it is the reason, but it's also hard to disregard it. But beyond the injuries, the same guys he's fought, the fact that the heavyweight division just isn't good, so there weren't too many guys for him to fight, but the inactivity as well because of the injuries. I said beyond the injuries. I wanted to say beyond the losses. It's the inactivity. Like, his record could have looked much better if he was able to be more active. Like, if he's fought on average 2 times a year, it is kind of unfortunate because for a heavyweight, this guy is really, really skilled. It is. I do, honestly, looking back, I do feel kind of sad. Might be over dramatic, but
I mean,
pretty
he only had
disappointment.
16. I'm assuming he's going to fight again, but he's only had 16 fights to this point,
right?
And he's been fighting 34? Since 2006. Like, he's been fighting for 10 years, and he's only had 16 fights.
And in 2008.
Years.
He was revealed as his prospect. Remember in 2008, he had that was his first UFC performance, right? It was when
Brad Morris was his first UFC fight, but really the Jake O'Brien fight is
Jake O'Brien was the fight. Yeah, he got him in that crucifix and beat him up, and it was like, okay, wow, this guy might be good. And that's when he was a prospect. And again, he still went on to become a 2-time champ. So let's not be too gloomy here, but. Compared to what might have been, I guess, it is a bit disappointing.
Yeah. Well, that fight's not happening. And the funny thing about it is, I don't know if we've told this story on this iteration of the podcast, but you were so hyped for Cain and Werdum 1.
Oh, we've told this story.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell it.
But yeah, I mean, you could go ahead and say it.
Because to make it fit with this card, is you were so hyped for this, and I remember I was coming back with an event with my fiance, and you were like, "You're gonna stay up and watch Cain fight," and I was like, "Yeah, I guess." And I remember I fell asleep during the Gilbert Melendez Eddie Alvarez fight, and I woke back up for
who's Gilbert Melendez?
Gilbert Melendez. I'm sorry.
There you go.
Against Eddie Alvarez, and I woke back up for Cain and Werdum. And I watched the fight, and I was like, oh, shit, well, that was kind of disappointing because Cain lost. And I'm texting you throughout the fight, and I'm like, are you watching this? And then the next morning, you text me, and you were like, I fell asleep. I just didn't watch it. And you never rewatched it, did you? Or watched it?
No, the best part is I didn't fall asleep. I went to bed. There's a difference. Why did I go to bed? Why did I go to bed? I forgot the fight was on. I spent the whole week being hyped. The whole week I could only talk about Cain Velasquez finally being back because I am a Cain fan and a big Cain fan. That's an understatement. I was so excited throughout the week for the Cain fight, and then I just completely forgot it was on, so I just went to bed.
Yeah, I was tired after driving 3 hours in the day, and so I took a short nap during the co-main event and still managed to wake up for the main event, and you just went to bed and forgot that Cain was fighting. And you never,
in hindsight, 2 years later, tell me that didn't work out for the best.
And you never watched it, because I know you didn't watch it because Cain lost. That was a big reason. I'm pretty sure if Cain had won, you would have watched
initially
it.
I didn't. Yeah, of course. No, initially I didn't watch it just because my guy lost. So it's from a purely fan point of view, I just didn't watch it because my guy lost. Now, if they were fighting on this card, I would have rewatched the fight, obviously, to break
Yeah,
to
so
break
I
it down for
text
this
you.
podcast.
I text you on Christmas Eve, actually, and because I decided to watch this fight on Christmas Eve, and I was just like, "Are you going to watch Cain and Werdum?" And you were like, "Yeah, I guess I'll watch it to break it down." And then literally like 3 hours after I texted you that, and after I got finished watching it, Cain pulled out of the fight, and I was like, "Well, I guess you still never have to watch this fight."
I guess I'll never watch it. It is really disappointing though. I think honestly it's other than Cormier and Jones at UFC 100, this has been the fight that didn't material. Well, of all the fights that didn't materialize, this one probably upset me the most after Jones and Cormier. And this is just off the top of my head. So many fights that fall through. I probably am mistaken about this, and I'm like forgetting something obvious. But maybe GSP and Silva at UFC 106. But
206.
206. They should have fought at 106. What was UFC 106?
Ortiz Griffin 2?
Oh, then they definitely should have fought at 106.
I'm going to make sure I am correct on that. Holy shit. I don't know how I remember that.
That is absolutely correct. I'm pretty sure that was the fight. Yeah.
What a trilogy that was.
So, that well, we don't talk about that.
That's true.
So, yeah, that fight, honestly, I mean, it was luckily packaged between all the Christmas festivities and stuff, so I didn't really have the time to think about it. But now that we're actually doing the podcast and talking about what could have been, meaning this fight, it kind of stings. That is pretty unfortunate. That would have been a good fight, especially on a card like this.
Dong Yeon Kim against Tarek Safadine. I'll go with Tarek Safadine.
Dong Yeon Kim, isn't that Korean Zombie? That's what I called him a few weeks. Remember?
I was
like, yeah, Korean
that.
Zombie, Dong Yeon Kim. It's Tungun, Zombie, whatever. I guess Tarek Safadine. I like Dong Yeon Kim, honestly. There was a time where like his top game was violent, but somehow he was never able to display it. But yeah, at this point, I'll go with Safadine.
The fight that replaced Velasquez and Werdum, Luis Smolka against Ray Borg. I'm going with the Borg.
I'm going with Smolka.
No reasoning.
Like, I'm just going with Smolka.
All right. Prelim cards. Johnny Hendricks against Neil Magny. Johnny Hendricks is still around.
We'll find out how washed up he is. Since my theory is once you're washed up, you're like completely washed up, I'm just going to pick against Johnny Hendricks, even though I'm not sure about the other guy. But
Johnny
whatever. Hendricks
is 1-3 in his last 4 fights. I'm
going with him being completely washed up. That's why I picked against him. Maybe he'll probably win, but whatever. I'm picking against him.
Mike Pyle, he's on this card. Jeez,
Mike Pyle's still a thing. Wow, you say Johnny Hendricks is still a thing.
He is 41. Mike Pyle is.
Yeah, there's no better sign that the UFC aren't putting on enough events than Mike Pyle fighting in almost 2017. Technically, it's pretty much.
He's fighting Alex Garcia. All these guys are coming off losses, I just noticed. Like, Hendricks is coming off a loss. Mike Pyle's coming off a loss. Magny's coming off a loss. Smolka and Borg are coming off losses. Safadine and Dong Yeon Kim are coming off losses. Ronda Rousey's coming off a loss. Everyone on this card is just a loser.
Well, it's going to be their year of redemption for all these guys coming into 2017. I'm going with Mike Pyle due to the NBA logic of the power of being a veteran and championship DNA.
And that's really Tim Means against Alex Oliveira is the Fight Pass.
Oh, Tim, why do you gotta be so mean is on this card?
That's right.
Did he fight like a week ago?
I thought so too. I think that's Jordan. Why you gotta be so mean? There's a lot of means.
Wow. So which one was the you gotta be so mean? Is it Tim? Which one you came up with that nickname for?
I think
Jordan
it was Tim.
Or Tim?
I think it was Tim Means a long time ago. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Tim Means. We'll go with him over Alex Oliveira. Why you gotta be so means? That's UFC 207. The return of Ronda Rousey fighting nobody, according to Joe Rogan.
Yeah, they legitimately did not bring up Amanda Nunes at all. Like, between not doing media and under promoting, I guess, this fight, yeah, Amanda Nunes' exposure, that's gonna be something.
It's
Whatever.
really just you're buying this card for Rousey's return, or you're not buying it at all. It doesn't matter who she's fighting.
Yep. Well, we're rooting for Nunes. Let's not even kid each other here. I don't know if I can even accept Ronda Rousey still hanging around.
Well, she's winning. I'm changing my pick to Ronda Rousey.
Is that official?
That's official.
Do you seriously believe it, or are you just doing this to spice things up?
I believe it and to spice things up. I'm sold on Ronda Rousey.
Oh, okay, so you're not. You're just
It's 2016. Shit. Everything that bad that can happen will happen.
Good point.
Ronda Rousey's winning. We gotta make sure we end. We gotta make sure we end 2016 with the worst result we could think of.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, actually, now that you mentioned that. Because for a year like this, yeah, not only will Ronda Rousey win this fight, she's going to cut a promo on, all her haters, people who doubted her.
Yeah.
Everyone who's used lube all around the world, all those limp dicks and do-nothing bitches, all those hobbyless Twitter trolls. Anybody else? Am I forgetting anybody?
No, I think that's pretty good.
Fair weather 125-pounders.
Yeah, fair weather bitches.
Fair weather bitches. And yeah, that'll be a good end to 2016.
All right. Well, there you go. Ronda Rousey wins.
Makes
all right.
sense.
Thank you.
Ronda Rousey's winning because it's 2016. Perfect.
We'll be back next week to talk about Ronda Rousey's victory and ring in 2017. Hopefully it's better than this fucking year.
It won't be, but whatever.
Trump is going to be president. We're going to build a fucking wall to keep everybody out, and things will be great. Fantastic and great. That's what I've been told.
As opposed to disaster and worst ever?
Yes.
All right. Fair enough. Well, I hope everybody... Are we still recording?
Yeah, we're still recording.
Okay, I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes, I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas as well, and I hope everyone's 2017 is better than their 2016, because it seems like everyone had a shitty 2016.
And even if you had a good 2016, we still hope you have a better 2017. So that there's no way that can be a bad wish.
That's right. And we will see
you next time.
Although
if you've had a good 2016, I want to meet you because I don't think you exist.
We'll see you next time, right back here on the podcast.